Welcome to the many worlds of Mike and Anthony. I'm Mike.
I'm Anthony. Welcome to the show. How you doing, Mike?
Hey, I'm doing great. How are you doing, man?
All right. Happy Thursday. Here we are again. Another
Yep,
fun time that we're going to have tonight on the episode.
absolutely. Yeah, tonight we're going to be discussing the movies, not all of them, we'll get to that, of
Yeah.
who I now believe really, after we've done an in-depth look at this guy,
Yeah.
one of the most brilliant filmmakers of all time,
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. I
John
mean,
Hughes.
yeah. If you grew up in the 80s and 90s, you've watched a John Hughes film, if not multiple John Hughes films, and you might not even have known it. To be real honest with you, he's created some of the most popular films ever, in my opinion, and to this day are some of them. I'd say, if
Yeah,
not most of them, are all iconic that have the rewatch factor, even in 2026. Matter of
this
fact,
is a small listing of the movies he made in that period.
yeah, it's incredible. I mean, just the Christmas movies alone. If you're a traditional person like I am, when it comes to the Christmas season, you watch a lot of Christmas movies during the month of December, and there are a couple that are pretty much every single December. I mean, there's so many, and two of those are on this list. Actually, three, because I do watch Home Alone 2 as well, not the rest of them. But yeah, the Christmas Vacation, Home Alone, you cannot have a December, in my opinion, without watching those two films, which is just incredible. And then he's done so many other ones that are just iconic. So yeah, we're
Yeah,
going to be talking about a few of them.
and when we say made them, we're saying either wrote them or
Yes.
directed them or both.
Yes.
And you with this list, he wrote all of them. But
Yeah. Well,
so
and and
yeah,
when we dive in more to this topic, I hopefully you all will see how amazing and interesting this world is that he has that he's created, which I wasn't, maybe Mike was a little bit, but I was not very much aware that he actually created a fictional world that was real. And I'll just leave it at that until we get into the details of this
I love
episode.
that.
But yeah, let's just before we jump in, Mike, any updates? You still watching the same stuff this week, or what's been going on your TV lately in the
Yeah,
music?
it's all pretty much the same.
Yeah.
Um, Silo is still going strong. I love that show. Highly recommend it. If you like apocalyptic things where people go live underground, watch
Hey,
Silo and also watch Fallout, which is awesome.
hey, Mike, quick question on that. So, because I don't do Apple TV at this point,
Mhm.
does Apple TV have it to where you can binge watch, or do they do
Yeah.
do they
Oh, yeah.
every week release an episode? Because certain channels are doing that now.
Oh well, well, when I say binge watch, after they're all released, you can, but Apple
Okay.
traditionally releases them weekly, which I prefer because
Yeah.
it makes it feel more like an event to me to have to
Yep.
wait for it, like old
Okay.
school
So you watched
TV.
Fallout. Yeah, we need to talk about that one. That one's
I
two
love
seasons.
Fallout,
It's pretty cool. It's based off a video game, which is
man.
odd, but it actually is a pretty good show. It's fun.
Yeah, there are a lot of parallels between Fallout and Silo, except that in Silo there aren't zombies. There's no kind of mythological element,
Yeah.
supernatural element to it.
Yep. Yep.
But it's all science fiction. But they're both great. And of course we both watch House of the Dragon, and that just ended. I love the whole season. Some people have problems with it because of the pacing. I like all the political stuff where they're
Yeah.
talking in dialogue, so I didn't have a problem with it.
But it's fascinating how Martin could just create this world, and we're thinking, mythology, fantasy, blah blah blah, and to have such, you know, detail in the politics of the, I mean, Game of Thrones. I get it. It's a Game of Thrones. Obviously, it means there's people that are competing with, in their kingdoms and for their thrones, and who wants to be the ruler of Westeros and all of that stuff. I get all of that, but it's amazing how detailed he is on that stuff. House of the Dragon does not disappoint in the political realm at all. Not a big politics fan in reality, but in these types of series, they're
Right.
absolutely amazing and iconic. And then
Yeah.
on top of that, there's very disturbing scenes, almost disturbing humor scenes. And some of the twists and the turns, Martin is almost, I'm going to say he almost is the king. He's ticked a lot of people off. Like you have iconic characters that you think are invincible and will be there till the end, and he'll kill them. He'll just kill them flat out. Like you don't see it coming. And then he has other, characters that you're like, is this person going to die? Are they going to live? Are they going to die? Are they going to live? And then they might live, or they might actually die. And it's a strange, odd, bizarre way of dying. You're like, oh, it's about time. I mean, that's what I love about his shows. The third season of House of the Dragon did not disappoint. That last episode was a shocker. It was a shocker. Saw a few things coming, but it was a shocker for sure. Loved it though. Probably going to be, as HBO fashion, it's probably going to be like 2 or 3 years before we get the fourth. And I think it's the final season from my understanding. So the final season is going to be a fourth season from some of the things that I've read, but really great. So check it out. If you haven't seen the first 3 seasons, very, very good storytelling. Interesting. Fun.
You think we'll get to see some actual magic from Alice Rivers?
I don't know. I'm waiting. I'm waiting. It's like, why haven't you? Right. I mean, it's one of those things you're talking, you talk a big game, and she was the one that she's been alive for how long?
100 years or so. I think.
Something like 100 years. Yeah. It was, So it's like, okay, how did you do that?
It wouldn't be a big deal if she didn't look like she was 30.
Correct. So, but anyways, so yeah, I've been watching that as well. Yeah.
I may have been longer than 100 years. I don't know. I'm not up on all of the Martin chronology. I love it, but not that. And then X-Men 97 just had its finale. Yep. And I enjoy. I always like the X-Men animation stuff. So
cool.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, really nothing new that I finished up, obviously, Rick and Morty season. I think there's one more episode coming. I'm up to 9. Perfect timing for Game of Thrones or for House of the Dragon to end. And we're going to be launching into a DC television series on HBO, which I've been anticipating a little bit because I am a fan of the Green Lantern. And this series is broadly based on the Lanterns, plural. So apparently we're going to have more than one in there. I don't know if it's going to be an origin story. I don't know if it's going to be post or pre Hal Jordan. I don't know, but we'll see. So
well, I won't tell you because I know who's going to be in it, but it sounds like you're avoiding even those spoilers.
I am, Mike. You know me. Everybody by now that's watched our show now should know that I avoid all of that stuff. I want to go into it blind. I just want to watch it. I don't want to be biased with anything. I don't want to expect or anticipate anything other than the show being released. That's it. So, yeah.
I don't mind kind of spoilers like who's going to be in it and stuff like. I don't like plot spoilers.
Right. So, I want to know about the story and everything. So, yeah. So.
And Star Trek Strange New Worlds is still the second episode came out recently. And, this again, if you like original Star Trek or Next Generation Star Trek, this is a show you would probably like.
Yeah. Well, that's cool, man. Awesome. Well,
because it's a return to form.
Yeah. Well, other than some TV shows, I haven't checked out any other movies as of late. Obviously, still coming off of Spider-Man. That was an awesome one. Hopefully, if you haven't checked out the last show, our previous episode, it was a fun one, really good. And it's interesting to see some of our takes that we had. People are actually pointing those out or talking about some of those things on other wires in the YouTube verse. So it's pretty cool.
I will say that, we never take anybody else's takes and reuse them.
No.
All of our takes are fresh from us.
And
we might have the same ones as some other people because there's so many people commenting on things, but they're authentic to us.
Yeah, and it's been a lot of fun too, because obviously when Mike set out to do this piece of the many worlds of Mike and Anthony, the YouTube live stream.
It was your idea, to be clear.
But when we set out to do this, we had no expectations. We were not looking to compete with anybody or anything. Mike and I just wanted to continue our conversations over video, and we decided, hey, why don't we just stream it? So, and here we are.
Well, we were doing this anyway. We were talking about this stuff on our own. We're like, hey, we might we should stream this. So
Yeah,
anyway,
we just figured capturing some of our conversations, maybe in person to see some of our animations, and so people can really understand our passions, because we do have passions when it comes to movies, television series, music. I mean, we really do. So, and other things, among other things, collecting comics, you name it, action figures, whatever. So, hey,
and
hopefully
talking
everybody
about
can find a
music,
little. Yeah.
we do have some action on the music front.
Yeah.
We haven't talked about this a lot. We will be entering into more of this territory in the future.
Yes.
Anthony and I used to be, well, we always sort of have been in a band together since we've
I know.
started when, I don't know, 2015 or something, 2014, I don't know, somewhere around there.
It was before that. It was before that.
Was it like 2012 or something?
Yeah.
We've been in musical projects and bands together for a very long time, but what happened is everybody moved. And so we used to play out, we used to play live, and did a lot of shows, recorded albums, but our lead singer moved to Florida. The keyboardist moved to Denver. I moved to Kansas City. Anthony moved to Bentonville.
And Mike, hold on a second. For the band, guess where I moved? I moved up to Chicago.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Yeah.
And
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Interestingly enough, I moved to an area that is of interest in tonight's episode. So,
but that's interesting.
Finish up your subject on the band stuff, because we do have some fun kind of information that's in the works.
Yeah, so basically, since I moved up here, we're kind of doing two different tracks on the band. I'm trying to assemble a live playing band up here around the Lawrence, Kansas area, because that's a pretty hot music scene. And then, but we've got some, and then Anthony and I are doing studio-based projects, which we can do remotely together.
Yeah.
So those are kind of two avenues we're going. The live band is called Into Forever, and we've now got a lead guitar player that I'm very happy to announce. His name is Dylan Crenshaw, and we've put that up on our socials. Really nice guy, fantastic shredder kind of guy. And then I'm going to move over to rhythm guitar and keyboards, which is what I always wanted to do anyway. And then we are auditioning a new lead singer Monday, so I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to meeting her as well. We're big on the female vocal piece for the band, so because we think it's awesome. That was, and we've had that. That's what we had in the past, and the band that I was a part of. So it was very, very cool.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. All right. So, spoiler alert for John Hughes films in general.
Yeah.
Really, seriously, spoiler alert for these 5, and
for
even more spoiler alert for the ones with Molly Ringwald in them, because we're going to talk. Now, again, we always will give the disclaimer: we're not doing breakdowns. So if you want to know the plot of Pretty in Pink, this is not the place to learn it.
Yep.
We're not doing Easter eggs. We are giving an analysis of these films and film critique and comparisons.
Yeah, like in certain aspects of it too. Obviously, we're not going to cover everything, but we're going to cover a good handful of themes and analyze or present an analysis of certain themes that happen not only throughout each film, but actually how a lot of those are connected to, which is very, very cool from the John Hughes verse. However, he calls it something else.
He calls it something else. Yeah. Well, so we're going to look at the Shermerverse.
Yep.
One town, different kids, same stories. And you might think, hey, Mike and Anthony, you guys are stretching it a little bit. Okay, he wrote all these movies, but it's a stretch to say they're all part of the same. That couldn't possibly be the case, especially since you have the same actress playing several different characters. But if you think that, then we're going to show you some pretty convincing evidence, I think.
Yes. Yeah. Surprise. This is legit. And I was blown away by it. Now, interestingly enough, as I mentioned back when Mike and I were, we had just come off of actually putting together an album with a band, it wasn't just Mike and myself. I had to move. I moved up to Chicago, Illinois. and I selected a place. It was a northwest suburb of Chicago, which I absolutely loved to this day. Still love visiting when I have an opportunity to do that when I'm up in the Chicagoland area. But it was called Glenview, Illinois. And Glenview, Illinois was like at least where I lived, and I was in a little bit northern part of Glenview, Illinois. It was about maybe a mile from a place called Northbrook, Illinois. And what's interesting about Northbrook, Mike?
You had a story about jogging that I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just to play a little bit more information on that while Mike's pulling up that slide. So John Hughes used a lot of those areas in the northwestern suburbs of Chicago to film his movies in. And one of the most iconic, I would say probably the most, besides the Home Alone house, which is in Winnetka, Illinois, which is just a little bit northeast of where I used to live. You can drive by there many times. People do it. They take, selfies in front of the house. But so that home's up there. There's a little high school up there called Glenbrook North, and that was one of the iconic areas where they had done some filming of that show, of The Breakfast Club. I should say that show of The Breakfast Club. If everybody remembers the football field at the very end of the movie, that's the football field. So looks a little different than the movie, of course. This was back in the 80s. That was probably a modern photo. But I used to run all over Glenview, Northbrook, Northfield, because I just worked in that area. And I used to run by these places all the time. And I didn't even realize it for the first few years that I was there, that these were the schools that were in the movies that I grew up. And
watching. Notice what it says, Shermer High School. That's because all of these movies either take place in Shermer, or all the characters in the movies, is an important distinction, are from Shermer. That is a quote from John Hughes himself. But if you go looking for Shermer, well, let's just why don't we let Jay and Silent Bob.
What exactly brought you to Illinois?
See, all these movies take place in this small town called Shermer in Illinois, where all the honeys are top shelf, but all the dudes are whiny, except for Judd Nelson. He was harsh.
I love those guys.
Like fat rats, and we were the blunt connection in Shermer, Illinois. So we collected some money we were owed and caught a bus. You know what we found out when we got there? There is no Shermer in Illinois.
Beautiful.
Oh, man. I could listen to that dialogue all day long.
I love Jay and Silent Bob so much. I love them. They're just the best.
Yeah.
But you heard what he said. There is no Shermer, Illinois.
There's no Shermer, Illinois.
And it's Illinois. What you'll get corrected by many people in Illinois, by the way. I did that for fun, and they would nail you every time. It's Illinois, not Illinois. The S is silent.
But there is no Shermer, Illinois, but maybe there once was.
Yeah.
Because if you look at maps from before the 1925, you'll see this Shermerville.
Yep.
And Shermerville was a real town that became something else. There's a train station, and there was a law passed to change the name to
Northbrook. Which I live just 5 feet from. Yep.
So John Hughes simply just shortened the original name of the town from Shermerville to Shermer.
Yep.
And
which was
so it does exist, Jay. I'm sorry to tell you.
Yeah, Jay, it does. But it's so cool though. It is so cool. John Hughes literally kind of started a path, or walking down a path, that I would say from a modern lens, what Tolkien did. Would you argue that?
I came away from analyzing with you these films blown away, because I always liked these films, but I always thought they were just kind of fun.
Yeah.
Kind of like eating some, high calorie dessert that was great, tasted great, but not a lot of cultural or civic significance. But oh my goodness, was I wrong?
But for us, for the younger generation, the Gen Xers, right? And I mean, these were coming of age movies. These were relatable movies. These were when I was that age watching a Molly Ringwald or, an Emilio Estevez or, whoever, I was like, oh my gosh, I'm living this right now. And I would love to be this guy. I would love to be, I mean, the weird science guys. I mean, Anthony Michael Hall, good grief. I mean, who at our age as young men would not love to actually be able to generate the most, supermodel on your computer and then bring her to life? I mean, it's brilliant. I think we all want that.
We'll talk about how some things that you could put in a movie in the 80s you wouldn't do today.
Oh yeah. Once again, we are trekking back a few decades, so you have to understand that there have been some changes for sure.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
So if we go through here and you think, yeah, but there are some things in those John Hughes movies are problematic. I agree. And we'll talk about that, and we're not overlooking that, but that'll be at the end.
Yeah.
The point of this is not to cancel John Hughes. The point of this is to analyze the brilliance of his screenwriting.
And thank you, John Hughes. I just want to say thank you, John Hughes. Yeah. Obviously, he's passed away. Thank you so very much. Awesome.
And I'm not justifying it. It's just true that anything you take from 30 or 40 years ago and look at it through any modern lens, we're going to view it differently. So,
of course.
All right. So the three movies that Molly Ringwald appeared in, I started calling the Shermer Social Class Trilogy, and you might think, what? But these three movies are it's basically a social experiment in movie form, where you take the same face, you basically take the same teenager, and you put her in three different socioeconomic classes and see how society treats her, how she feels about herself. So you have, in the first movie of this trilogy, you have Samantha in 16 Candles, who's the overlooked girl. You have Claire in The Breakfast Club, who's the privileged girl. And you have Andy in Pretty in Pink, who is the outsider girl who's kind of working class.
Yeah.
So we go from, we have working class, we have affluent here, and then we have middle class here.
Yeah. And the other piece to this is you have to think about the people. So I'll come from the perspective of the people actually watching these films. I mean, imagine, young women, young ladies watching these films. This is what to me was so brilliant about John Hughes was he even did this for the male characters as well. Although I would say that they weren't as diverse when it comes to their conditions, right? It was either you were a nerd or you were an athlete. I mean, there really wasn't too much in between. We have a few examples where there was, but for the most part, it was a nerd or an athlete. Anyways, you got to imagine the people watching these shows they could relate to at least one of these. So whatever movie it might have been, became a favorite of somebody because, oh my gosh, I can relate to that person so very well. So,
yeah. So we're going to look at some major themes of these movies. We're going to start off a little bit fun here before we go deeper and just look at some fun things that John Hughes said, one of which is that Ferris Bueller knew Samantha Baker. He said that, not me.
Which is awesome because every one of us used to, we used to love Molly Ringwald. She was always a heartthrob, one of the many back in the 80s. And of course, everybody wanted to be Ferris Bueller because he had a day off, and his day off, he made himself. He created it. He made it work, and it was brilliant.
Yeah. And he also said that John Bender and Del Griffith were neighbors just 2 doors down from each other. So think about that for a minute.
Which is hilarious, which is absolutely hilarious. And by the way, I have to say, thank you, John Candy, as well. He was an iconic actor during these years of my life growing up. And I would say just about every movie, he's such a heartwarming character in every movie. He just really is. So thank you, John Candy, for being there as well. He's passed away as well. Just amazing. So thank you, John Candy.
Yeah. Loved him. But then we go back to the social part of it, the two sides of Shermer. We have 2 movies where one she's working class, the other she's affluent.
Mhm.
And the other one, she's middle class, and so we're again looking at this sort of social experiment in movie form. But was it just something that we're noticing and look, it's like looking at a cloud and seeing, I see a duck and you see a panther or whatever?
Yeah.
No, because when you go back and read the interviews and writings of John Hughes,
Mhm.
something very interesting pops up. We all know the famous quote from, what's the famous thing everybody knows from Ferris Bueller's Day Off?
The iconic teacher scene where Bueller is not present and he's being called multiple times in that monotone voice. Bueller, Bueller. uh, that's the one that I remember the most. So
Yeah, everybody knows that. And being a teacher, I was a teacher I still am part-time, but I was a full-time teacher for 20 years. That is so much. You want to do that every time you teach. I'm just
you do
saying,
it.
when students
Yeah,
don't respond, you
it's
just want,
cliche now. It's
yeah.
cliche.
So, but when we look at the another movie here, when we look at Pretty in Pink, it struck me while I was rewatching these movies over the last few days. I thought, isn't that interesting that we have two teachers, one in Ferris Bueller's Day Off talking about a very obscure act, the Smoot Hawley tariff act, which has become a joke in and of itself. And then in Pretty in Pink, when I was watching that, I thought, hey, what in the world? Hold on. There's another teacher talking about a rare or an obscure economic, probably the economist, it's not obscure, but to me, it was obscure. Another 1930s economic act,
Mhm.
teaching in a classroom. But what's happening here is that when you look into these are opposing economic theories.
Yes.
These are, you've got the Smoot-Hawley Act, Protection Act, that's protecting the affluent. And notice that that's in Ferris Bueller's movie, where he's an affluent kid who can skip class basically because he has the privilege to do so.
Mhm.
And he doesn't want to be in class. And then you have Pretty in Pink, where we're talking about the New Deal or the Emergency Banking Act of 1933, which protects the poor and working class people. And in that one, we have Andy from, Pretty in Pink, who is the working class family icon here. And she wants to be in class, but she keeps getting distracted by the other girls who are kind of making fun of her dress.
Right.
And she can't concentrate, and she gets punished for it.
And this is what's funny because, or not funny, I should say, but in Ferris Bueller, you're right. He didn't want to be in class, whereas she had to be in class. I mean,
Yes.
she realized that her education was so very important because, she didn't have it. They didn't have it very well off in her family,
Yeah.
which was very cool. At the same time, very interesting to see that John Hughes decided to, embed that in some of his films, which is, I don't know.
And another thing I think is interesting is that, on one hand, yes, the economic theories that are put into action through laws in our countries do affect us for sure.
Yep.
And they do make it harder for poor and working class people and easier for rich people. But he didn't let her dad off the hook. It made it very clear that he was not actively, even though he was able, he was not actively looking for work.
Right.
He was just laying around in bed being depressed about his wife leaving him.
Yep.
And so that you can have two things be true at the same time. One is that the system can be unfair, but here was a guy who was also making his life harder and his daughter's life harder.
Yep.
So yeah, we have two movies with two economic theories laying out two paths for America. And you're thinking, I think you're reaching on that. Yeah, wait a minute.
Give it a second.
Yeah, because there's more. So we have, let me see where we're at here. Yeah. So we move on to this idea of cliques and how people are divided in, especially The Breakfast Club, but in all of those
Yeah.
movies.
So it's just real quick to touch on this, Mike. So, he not only, kind of played around with the socioeconomic piece. So he kind of painted the broader picture of of the characters, right? Setting the stage for the characters. He also did, you've got the sociological piece as well. That is
Yes.
like within the different characters too. And it, that didn't have to do with economics. This one basically had to do with, yeah, I mean, it had to do with interpersonal relationships and action, together and acting with each other. And that, I think, is what a lot of us, mostly interact or like associated with when we watch these films. Once again, the whole economic thing just flew over our head, which is interesting now that we're older and we can catch this stuff. But in general, when we were watching these films, that's what we really noticed. And of course, that was one of the main themes that he played on, like, and he did it very, very well during that time. He did it very well during that time.
Yeah, we connected with these movies because we saw ourselves in these movies somewhere.
Exactly.
And so, oops, I don't know why that's up there. So let's see. So when you think about these, classes, we're going to come back later and talk about how have those cliques changed over time, and so we'll get to that more later. So next, we're saying here that he built the Shermerverse. We're not saying he was the first person to build a connected universe. This has been going on since at least the 1940s with the Universal Monsters, where you had, Frankenstein fighting Wolfman. I don't remember who fought who, but that kind of thing. And then you had a Shermerverse, the MCU and DCU, of course. But I picked, I think, 11 of my favorite verses.
Which is
just for fun here.
This is what's so fun, though, because you don't realize this. Well, I mean, of course, a lot of us probably didn't realize there was the actual Shermerverse, but there is. But then you kind of see where it fits into others that you didn't realize was a verse per se. And except for the MCU and the DCU, of course, because that's all we've been talking about for the last 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
But it's been,
and they go out of their way to say, hey, look at us. We're an integrated universe. But not a lot of these do. So Shermerverse certainly doesn't announce it loudly. The Fullerverse doesn't either. If you like Brian Fuller, and I'm a huge fan, because Dead Like Me, Pushing Daisies, those shows are just amazing.
Yes,
and then and different characters will show up. The same characters will show up in the different shows and the same backgrounds and things. And then the Munchverse was one that blew me away. And I kind of knew part of it because I'm the biggest X-Files fan in the universe. But because Munch from Homicide showed up on there. And Cops crossed over with the X-Files, which was awesome. Yeah. But basically, Munch showed up in a list that was I'd have to have like 3 slides for it because you've got The Wire, you've got Arrested Development, weirdly enough, all this amazing, all these connections. So if you didn't think that the X-Files alien conspiracy could fit in the same world as Homicide or The Wire, you're wrong. And then the View Askew universe, that's Kevin Smith's Clerks and Mallrats and stuff. I love it. Dogma is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yes.
Not a lot of people know, I don't think, but maybe more are learning about it because of the It TV show, or it's not called that, but the latest Stephen King TV show. But basically all of his books and movies are all connected through the Flag character. Who's the evil entity that takes different forms. My favorite version of that would be, there's a book called Eyes of the Dragon, which is amazing. And then there's the Dark Tower trilogy, those are my favorites. And then you've got the Tarantino universe, where those are all in the same one. And of course, Godzilla and King Kong, which I also love. So anyway, I want to throw some of those in there that I like.
Yeah. And View Askew. I love the Jay and Silent Bob creation from View Askew is just fantastic.
Yeah. And they struck back too.
Yep, they did.
Um,
So yeah, we have many verses out there that you might not have known about, but now you do. So that's great.
yeah, but the roots of Shermer was that John Hughes said that he went to school, and in the same school there was a kid who had his teeth rotting out, and
Yeah.
there was also the richest kid in town, and he wanted to tell a story about how these economic divides can coexist in the same small town of 22,000 people. And he did that through the Shermerverse. He said
Hmm.
that for 15 years, I've written my Shermerverse stories in prose, collecting its history. He said that the history of Shermer, these are quotes, is the history of post-war America. That so you have the economic theories of the protecting the rich and protecting the the poor and working classes that have been vying all these years, and you have World War II that comes along and disrupts everything, but
Yep.
yet we won. So we there was a lot of things that we benefited as Americans from winning that war. And so how has that affected a small town in Illinois and the kids growing up? That's
Yeah.
what this story is telling. These stories are telling.
Who would have thought that, right? But
Yeah,
it's his
according
depiction
to the guy
of,
who wrote.
yeah, but it's his depiction of, like you said, post-war USA.
Yeah, and one of the points he made was that he said that his generation, the boomers, uh, sucked up all the attention or so much attention that his or not his generation, yeah, his generation, that the kids that he was writing about were struggling for an identity because they were forgotten.
Yeah. Yep.
And I know growing up, I mean, I love my parents; they were awesome, but um, I was free
Yes.
range, man. I could go out and do whatever I wanted to do, basically.
Yeah. Well, and then you've got the whole idea of, the Generation X period just feeling like they're the forgotten,
Yes,
generation. And I know you've got something to touch on that, but
yeah,
yeah, we didn't feel like we had a voice or anything. Not that I was really looking to find that when I was younger, but the John Hughes films really play that out very well. I mean, even
yeah.
if look at Home Alone. I mean, there was so much going on.
Right?
Kevin,
Another movie
Kevin,
about parents forgetting their child.
yeah, exactly. And also not giving the child his, like, I don't want to say the respect that he has due to him, but Kevin was the problem child. He could never do anything right. Everything he did was, a screw up and a mess up. It's like, why are they doing this to him? There's kids younger than him, but Fuller was, he was the sweet little Fuller. He, and then all the other kids were like, well, they could hold their own, they could carry their own. And then there was Kevin. So I mean, it starts to make sense when you really try to dive into these films. It's fun.
You could do a whole show. We probably should around Christmas time on Home
Oh, we
Alone.
will. We will.
Because so there's an interesting thing about that movie, I think, from a script point of view, which is that you've got all of these traps, right, that he's laid around the house that have to have these intricate systems. It's what we call a Rube Goldberg machine,
Yeah.
where you put a marble in a tray and it runs down and it pops a balloon and it shoots an arrow up and blah, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
The script is also constructed like a
Yeah.
Rube Goldberg machine.
Yeah.
A whole other show, but
Yeah.
this guy's a freaking genius. Now, so we go from the Generation America Forgot idea to uh, to an actual explicit telling of that through the point of view, through the eyes of our protagonist in 16 Candles. Because what is 16 Candles about, my friend?
It was about a young lady whose parents forgot her birthday. because they were too busy focusing on her older sister and what she was going through, which, if I'm not mistaken, was her wedding.
Yes. So literally, John Hughes said in a quote in an interview, I write about America forgetting, about boomers forgetting their children. And he's written at least 2 movies where literally the boomers forgot their children.
Yeah. Yep. How funny is that?
Yeah.
And you will see that there's at least one character in just about all of his movies that is definitely under the radar. You can tell that they're not recognized or acknowledged by society or by different cliques, as Mike mentioned earlier in some of the slides, that they're obviously not recognized, but every one of those things play out. It's very cool.
Yeah, well, like in the opening to Breakfast Club, when the parents are driving their kids there, except for the criminal, how when Allison, the outsider, when her parents take her to school, all the rest of the parents talked to their kid before they got out of the car and then said bye to him or I love you or whatever.
Yeah.
Her parents drive up. We don't even see them really. They kind of kick her out. She gets out of the car and they just drive off before she can even move away from the car. And they almost hit the criminal as they drive in. But so she's so forgotten that they basically forget about her before she's even shut the door.
Yeah.
So he talked about adolescence and he talked about the idea that as we get older, adults forget what it's like to have the emotions of an adolescent, where if someone doesn't write you back or if someone doesn't invite you to a party, it's like the end of the world.
Right.
And we think it's trivial, but it's not to them. Then he said, and I'm just kind of a summary of things he said. He said, everybody in all of my movies is from Shermer, Illinois. For 15 years, I've written my Shermer stories in prose, collecting its history. I wanted to write a history of Shermer because it would be the history of America, post-war America. I love it.
It is cool. It's fun. And like I said, I literally was able to live in this area. I was literally in the Shermerverse when I was living up in Chicago. It was awesome.
In the Shermerverse.
I could have been.
Yeah. So when we look at Molly Ringwald, we can say, yeah, but how can all these people coexist when 3 of the characters in the 3 films in this social trilogy are played by the same person, Molly Ringwald? And so when you look at that, you could say, well, we could have the Star Trek solution, which means that identical appearance is an identical identity. So they're different people who happen to look the same. Well, that's the second one. They could just look the same. But I don't think either one of those are right. I consider this that these are 3 different people who do coexist in the same town, played by the same person, because we're telling a story of a social experiment that you basically take the same face and you put that teenager in 3 different social economic circumstances, brought up in 3 different families. You've got the affluent one brought up with 2 parents who can have anything she wants. You have the working class daughter who is completely forgotten here. And then you've got, the middle class daughter is completely forgotten. Then you have the working class daughter who has a single parent who is unemployed. And we're looking so it's basically the old genetics versus environment story, right? Nature versus nurture.
Yeah.
I think where we're seeing how this person would grow up in 3 different environments. And we also, if we look at the other main character that has different, played by the same person with major roles, we have the Anthony Michael Hall character.
Yes. Which I wouldn't say that I related to him when I was younger, but he definitely was a character that I felt somewhat connected to, in the movies that he was in. Right. I mean, even
Yeah.
Weird Science, even though Weird Science was just really it was a goofy,
Right.
fun movie. The Breakfast Club is probably the most, prominent one. And
Yeah.
he really was, I thought he was a pivotal character in the Breakfast Club too.
Oh,
Really
for sure.
pivotal.
Yeah, for sure.
They all were, I guess, in their own way.
Yeah. And so he plays basically the brain or the nerd in all of the movies, but the way he perceives himself is very different. So in when he's, the geek in 16 Candles, which is how he's listed in the credits as the geek, even though he also calls himself Farmer Ted. He desperately wants to be accepted, whereas in the Breakfast Club, he's an achiever who wants to live up to his expectations, but he's afraid he can't. And in Weird Science, he's the nerd who creates who's an inventor, and he's changing the world like IT people change the world.
Yeah. Well, and he literally did, right? I mean, he went
Yeah.
from this guy, this nerd that just would, get picked on and beat up, and he and his buddy were just they did stuff that me and some of my friends used to do. It was all about we just hang out inside, we play video games, we watch movies, we trade cards, baseball cards, whatever. They were just they were those guys. So that's where I could relate to them. Yet they were also smart, geeky smart. They get in their computer, they have a program, they have to, it would be fun to do this, blah, blah, blah. And then all of a sudden magic happens, and, this amazing supermodel appears. And this kind of also, it plays into the theme we were just somewhat kind of teasing out, is about, each character, I wouldn't say they go through an evolution, but they get to experience two sides of the coin. They're living one side of the coin, but in some stage of the movie or the film, they get to experience the other side. Take, for instance, in the Breakfast Club, Molly Ringwald's character, she literally is this popular, affluent girl, that everybody wants to be friends with. And then she meets people that basically tell her the truth, that you're ugly. You're an ugly person. You're ugly inside because, you think you're so special and you're nothing, you're nobody. And they like tell her the hard truth. So she's like, wow, I finally am around people that don't like me or don't want to be with me. And, and then Anthony Michael Hall, I'm a nerd, I'm a geek. I don't, and then all of a sudden I have this amazing, beautiful girlfriend who looks at me and doesn't see a nerd, a geek. She sees this awesome, amazing guy. And then everybody wants to be his friends. Now, of course, is it genuine? No, but he experiences popularity. He and his friend, of course, but I'm just speaking specifically to Anthony Michael Hall's character. He gets to experience all this popularity and becoming like the life of the party, right? When he was invisible before that, but it all because of what he did. It's neat how John Hughes tells that story, like both sides of the coin on each one of the, I think it's the same thing in Pretty in Pink, right? Where, or in 16 Candles, it's just watch those movies and think about each one of those characters. And it's the main characters, at least they actually get to experience.
Yeah. Well, something you said reminded me of one of the interesting things about the criminal in Breakfast Club. He's basically the only one who just tells the truth all the time.
I know. He's
yeah. And sometimes what he has to say is not pleasant to listen to.
It's blunt. Yeah, it's blunt.
But he's had a hard life, and he knows that he's not putting up with all the crap.
No, he's angry because he's been like, he's the downtrodden and nobody's ever respected him. And it's because his parents never did. I mean, his dad was abusive, right? I mean, that was one of the main pivotal scenes where he kind of talked about his dad being abusive to him. But then the athlete shared the same thing. It's like, I'm getting abused as well. My father hates me when I fail at my athletics, right? He would just beats me and dogs me because, if I don't make that pass, if I don't make that touchdown, it's cool.
Yeah. Well, the criminal says you do anything anybody asks you to do to the athlete, and especially his dad. And then when Allison was talking, who was she talking to? I can't remember off the top of my head, but he said, was it Emilio Estevez? He said, what is it, your parents? And she's like, she wouldn't talk about what happened, but we kind of get the feeling that several of them have been abused by their parents.
Yeah. 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 Like actual abused.
Yeah, right. So now let's transition to talking about 1980s
Yep.
versus today. So what would be different if Hughes made these movies today? Could he make these movies today?
Well,
First of all,
yeah, I mean, I think it's a great question. It's a fair question. I would have to say there's probably a handful that if he did make those movies today, obviously he would have to adapt them because there are themes in there that would have to change. They just have to. They've evolved or they've gone away and been replaced by something else. And then there are definitely things that there are topics that he couldn't touch on or they wouldn't, I don't think they would be warmly embraced as they were back then. And maybe they weren't even warmly embraced back then. They were just accepted back then. But
yes, right.
I think there might be two hot button items today.
I don't think it's a hot take to say that the character of Long Duck Dong would probably not make an appearance.
Exactly.
If that movie
Just
was
saying.
made.
Yeah. And of course, we could always talk about weird science as well, and how we basically are totally, the whole movie's about an objectification of a woman who, mind you, is totally accepting of the objectification. And matter of fact, that was the whole purpose. She is embracing it. So yeah,
and
I don't know.
She does gain agency throughout the movie, but yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah.
Oops, I went too far here. I'm going too far in the other direction. Sorry. So we already talked about that. Okay. Here we are. Sorry. So how would this change today, talking about the cliques? So do we look at the athlete, the nerd or the brain, the criminal, the goth or outsider alternative girl, the rich, pretty popular girl. Do those exist today? And what would be the equivalent? How would it change?
Well, I mean, they do, but I think it is vastly different. I think a lot of times, or at least nowadays, I can speak from whenever I was in school, it was pretty much exactly how Hughes made it, constructed it in, say, for instance, The Breakfast Club. And I know that the other ones are similar from a high school perspective. But today, we were living in our schools were much, much smaller. I mean, I know that there were big cities that had bigger schools, but even those the level of people or the level of students at those schools were much, much smaller than I think what they are today. I almost believe that you do have those, popularity cliques or areas or sects of high school, but I don't think they're as influential or as, I think they could be in completely different sides of the building. And there are certain groups within high school that wouldn't even know that there's popular kids. I mean, that's just an estimation of mine, but I truly believe that, you might know somebody by, that by name because maybe they're the high school quarterback, but there's probably a handful of kids that don't know anything about that there's even a football team in their high school, right? I mean, I truly believe that's possible today because schools are so big. Matter of fact, we both live in areas where schools are so big, you have to have an east, a north, and a south building for the high school alone. So I mean, it's just little things like that. So I think that there are some big differences in the way things used to be, but
didn't mean to get it.
No, it's okay.
So, here's a question for you, and I'm springing this on you, but if we go back to the 80s, which one of those cliques would you or did you identify with more, or did you?
Back in the 80s, Mike, for me, I liked it. And I think if you talk to any of my friends or just anybody from high school, I think if you were to say, do you remember Anthony? I think they would say, yes, I remember Anthony, but I don't know if they'd be able to put me in a spot of where I was because I had friends in each group, if you want to call it that, each clique, I had a friend, if not multiple friends. I played soccer, but I was friends with the football players. Obviously, the football players were the ones that, essentially they led the popular crowd for the most part, right? I mean, it was things like that. And so I typically coined myself as somebody that was friends with everybody, and I didn't really put myself in a clique. Now, I had a group of friends that I hung out with, but I would even look at my friends that I hung out with and say that we weren't really in any type of clique. We kind of were our own, maybe, if you want to say that, but I don't think we could put a title on the type of clique we were, because we literally we would go to this party, we would go to that party, we would hang out with his team, we would go play over here, we would go do that. I mean, that's just how we were. So it's not a tough one to answer, but it's a tough one to answer.
Yeah. My social group and the towns I grew up in stuff weren't big enough to have like cliques with a lot of people in any of them.
Yeah.
So, but we did have sort of one or two representatives of most of them.
Yep.
I know that I very strongly identified with, at the time, the rocker, like I was the guy who wore denim jackets, and stuff like that. I and would go over to my friend's house and we'd listen to records as soon as they came out, and we'd play them backwards to hear the backwards messages on Kiss albums and stuff. So very much the tried to be a rocker. I don't know how well I pulled it off, but
well, hey man, I tried to do all kinds of, I mean, I guess I dabbled with just about anything and everything when it came to just enjoying high school. I mean, I wore a jean jacket, but I also had a leather jacket, right? I mean, that's just how it was, so.
I never had a leather jacket, even though I played lots of sports. I never considered myself the jock, but I played sports.
Yeah.
But we had other cliques too that weren't represented in these movies, I don't think. And maybe it was a little early for some of them, I don't know, but there was like skaters was a big one, like in the late 80s and early 90s.
Yep.
And then there was like the kids who did breakdancing. I don't know if that's a clique or not.
Yeah. No.
They definitely did it.
That was huge too. I would say not really in my school, but when I was a kid growing up, I say a kid, when I was not less, it was in elementary school, maybe a little bit before elementary school. Yeah. Breakdancing was a big, big deal. It was huge. They would probably be some of the, I don't know if they would say misfit type people, but they were popular in their own field. If you want to say that.
Right. Yeah.
Especially the one with the most skills. So
I would have broken all of my bones in my body had I tried it.
Well,
but, I'm kind of clumsy. Okay. So, but I think thinking about this, I think today, we have different groups, but I think today there's more what you would call intersectionality, where you have multiple identities. You can be a TikTok content creator, but you can also be in a choral group, and you can also be in track. And like I know so many kids these days. I mean, I don't know them. I know them because I've gone on dates with their moms, but who are in all of these different programs.
Yeah.
Like, parents are enrolling kids in all these different things now.
Yeah.
Whereas when I was young, it wasn't an automatic thing. If you liked something, you would have to go to your parents and say, "Hey, I want to play basketball. Can I play basketball?" But today it's like there's all these programs in place that these kids are slotted into. It seems like.
Yeah, well, and kids can do multiple things too, and I think a lot of parents do that. They try things out. I mean, I can speak from my nephews that they, my sister and brother-in-law would actually, we're going to try this sport, we're going to try that sport, and then talk to the kid like, hey, what do you like? Do you want to continue? How do you feel? Oh, I want to play an instrument. I want to do this. I want to do that. It's that kind of thing, and which I kind of remember having those types of options, but it really wasn't. It was like, hey, here's the boat. If you don't get on it, you're going to miss it, kind of thing. And
Mhm.
and I don't think kids have to really worry about that. Everything's at their fingertips nowadays.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
soccer
you've always
goes
had
on all year
parents.
long.
Yeah, and you've always had some parents who like insisted that their kid play baseball and that they were going to be the best baseball player in the history of baseball or volleyball or whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always have those kind of parents. Okay, so let's move on. We could talk about that all day. Today, would Ferris Bueller have been able to skip school? What do you think? Would he get away with it?
No, well, no. So yeah, they can skip school all they want. No, not today. And I truly believe that there are too many controls in place, not just at school, to where you can't skip. In other words, you would be identified as not present, and then your folks would most likely be contacted, or somebody next of kin would be contacted. Second of all, if you get anywhere around town, there's a potential for you not only to be tracked by your phone, but also there's cameras and stuff everywhere. If somebody wanted to pursue that route, you could absolutely at some point in time potentially find where somebody was at any given point in time. So
Yeah.
no, I don't believe so.
The minute he didn't show up for school, the attendance app would ding his parents.
Right.
And then they would call him on his cell phone, and
Yeah.
they would look at his geo tracker on the cell phone, or they would look at the GPS coordinates of whatever vehicle he's in. So just multiple ways of tracking your kid these days.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for
I-
sure.
It would
And
be
as you
very
remember,
fast.
yeah, and Ferris Bueller, you know, the principal was on to him, right? He knew he wasn't there, but he was getting away with it the entire time. He was the only one. It's almost as if he was like the one that was crying wolf. You know, nobody believed the principal that Ferris Bueller wasn't at school, but he knew he was going to prove it. And all he needed to do, like literally all he needed to do, was just get home before his parents got home.
Right. And there's that epic scene at the end where he's
I'm sorry. And I can't forget his sister as well.
Yeah,
She knew too.
She saved his butt. She saved his butt there at the end.
Yeah. Right. At the end. Yes. But she knew the whole movie, she was trying to get him. Right.
Yeah. But you thought it was all over as soon as she was standing there. Yeah. Spoiler alert.
I love that movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah, I gotta watch that one again too. Okay. So yeah, I don't think but it might be a fun movie that he has to deactivate or get around all that stuff to take the day off. We gotta write that movie.
A sequel.
That's our movie we need to write.
That actually is a brilliant idea. Don't steal it if you're listening. We're gonna do that one.
That would be fun.
That would be fun.
Okay, what about popularity? How has that changed from the 80s till now? Back in the 80s, you could be popular in your school, right?
Yeah, I mean, and that was it, right? You were popular because you were good looking, you were a little bit more affluent, you might have had all the popular clothes and whatnot. But however, there were kids that probably weren't considered popular, but still had, they had the Air Jordans, the latest Air Jordans. They were wearing the Guess jeans, all the Ralph Lauren polos. I mean, they had that kind of stuff. But yeah, I mean, you were the star athlete, or you were second or third star athlete. In football was probably primarily where I was growing up. Yeah, I mean, it's all pretty much through school is kind of where you gained or where you learned the popularity stuff. But nowadays, it's totally different.
Yeah, today you've got to have followers, likes, views, and group chats, and DMs and memes, and you can be a nobody at school, but be a content creator with 1 million followers.
And literally make or create your own popularity, create it and be anything, that we would back in the 80s have defined you, put you in a clique, most likely would have been coined.
Like the loner, like Allison, who literally went to detention because she didn't have anything else to do because she didn't know anybody and she was a loner and really was wanting social contact. To where today, she could be the loner, the outsider, the goth girl, but beyond creating goth girl content or whatever on, TikTok and have millions of followers. And that could be your brand because kids are all about branding these days. This is my
They
brand.
are. Yep.
Yeah.
They absolutely are. And the thing is, there is no popular brand because that brand is what the person makes it. It's what they create it to be. And yeah, I don't know. Do you think the pendulum could swing back though? I mean, do you think
it
that
always
eventually,
does.
because I think so too, because there's a lot of things that we call retro, but
Yeah.
they're becoming mainstream again after what are we talking, like 2 or 3 generations now, right?
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Just the other day, school just started for a lot of the kids in this area, and jean shorts are coming back in style. We call them jorts back in the day. They were awesome back when we were young. And then the longer, the better. The skater, and and then skaters coined their own types of shorts, board shorts and whatnot. And all of a sudden, that stuff went away. And now all of a sudden jean shorts are back and they're popular again, or they're climbing back up. It's very fascinating to me. It's very fascinating.
Yeah. And that's going to be a whole thing. Fashion we're going to talk about.
Yes.
And dating. So how has that changed? Oh my goodness. In every way, I guess.
Oh man.
So back then, I mean, I remember dating back in the day where you had to call somebody on the phone or write them notes in school. Today you can text them. You can direct message them over apps.
Yeah. Well, once again, in dating in the 80s and 90s, it was pretty much you had to actually be physically present and put yourself on the chopping block. I'm speaking from a male perspective. I can't speak from a female perspective, although there were females that they literally would ask boys out. It was totally acceptable and fine. Nobody scoffed at it, but today, and it was tough, but you had good chances, and you also had those opportunities to say, hey, rumors would get around, and not in a bad way. Obviously there's bad rumors, but rumors would get around. Hey, so-and-so likes you. Do you like him? Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm interested. And then it would get back to you. And then it was like, okay, the path is clear. I can go talk to this person, even though it's still nerve-wracking. Today it's totally different. I mean, I'm speaking from somebody who is in the dating world right now. It is so very difficult because, and I could take a whole show to talk about this, and not to vent or anything like that. I won't do that. But the dating scene today is completely different. Trying to, as a guy would call it, cold turkey approach is I hope it someday it comes back, but right now it's very, very difficult to do. You're more than likely going to get coined a stalker or a creep or something to that effect in public if you do something like that today. I'm not saying every time, right? Yeah. Some of that still works, but for the most part. And then today, with the apps, that's really what the game changer has. I think the internet and the applications have really changed. It's been a game changer because now people have, I'd say primarily females, have at their fingertips they can literally try to find every single thing on their list in one person. Now, it might take them a long time to find it, but they might actually come across it. And that makes it very, very difficult for an average guy, because they have so many options. Whereas back in the 80s and 90s, you had what was in front of you. And I'm not saying that's a bad thing. I mean, I think almost that might be a good thing because you had to make a choice. And I think there was more experimentation. There was more trying things out back then as well. Nowadays, you just swipe left or right. You swipe left, you never hear or see from them again, right? That's it. You didn't even experiment or try anything, to go out on a date with them to see what the kind of personality was. But anyways, it is drastically changed today. That's all I'll say about that now, but definitely more. We could dive into this topic in much detail.
Well, let's talk more about along these lines of gender and sex. Yeah. So I think probably the biggest thing is that we have gender. Back then, I'm sure it existed, but today it's almost expected that we have gender fluidity. That gender roles have changed quite a bit. Yep. So that girls aren't necessarily expected to portray the ideal feminine qualities. They can if they want, but they can also dress like a boy. We have the gender fluidity idea. There's far, far more acceptance for LGBTQ. I can't say all the letters. LGBTQ
I can't
plus.
either.
And I think one of the biggest things, and one of the things these movies would struggle with in evaluating today, is the idea of consent. So if you take the idea of Caroline in was it 16 Candles, and where she gets drunk and basically her boyfriend passes her off to another guy and takes her for a ride in a car, and she's drunk and they end up having sex in the morning, and so none of that would be kosher today.
No, that probably wouldn't fly. Although, there's probably chances with that kind of stuff.
Then either, but
No. Not saying that was right. It's not right. Yeah, obviously that's
not right. Don't take advantage of drunk girls. That's wrong. Don't do it.
Well, it's the same thing. Don't take advantage of drunk guys either.
That's true. Yeah, very much so. Don't take advantage of impaired people as a general
period.
Rule.
Yeah. Exactly.
It's not nice.
It's not good.
Not right. Yeah. So then we have reputations. You kind of touched on this, that it used to be you could do something, screw up, or or maybe even got a bad reputation for something you didn't do, and then go away. Or you move and you graduate from high school, you go to college, and you reinvent yourself. I remember that being a thing.
Yeah. Everybody probably, especially growing up in the years we grew up, everybody probably knows somebody that did that.
Yeah. But today your reputation can live on forever because somebody recorded it and put it on the internet.
Yep.
And if you get it deleted, then you can go back to the Wayback Machine or the Internet Archive and probably find it.
But Mike and I are brave enough every week right now to put ourselves out there and let the internet have their way with us.
I know that, speaking for myself, I try to say multiple things that will get me canceled every week. So I keep trying.
Yeah.
Not on purpose, but I just sort of say things by accident sometimes.
No, we welcome everyone. We want everyone. Yeah. We want everybody to enjoy the world that we have created.
I kid. I'm a kidder.
I kid. I'm a kidder.
Love is all we need, as the Beatles said. Okay, so reputations don't disappear. Let's talk about fashion for a bit. Fashion and music. Start with fashion. Here's something that I noticed right off the bat is we've got, when you look at the opening scenes of especially the first movie in the trilogy, 16 Candles, and the opening of Pretty in Pink, you've got a short little things about the parents or the house establishing the scene. But then when you get to the kids, it's interesting, the evolution, because you go from 16 Candles, where you see the kids going to school, and it's easy to think, oh, this is just a montage of kids getting off the bus and going to school. But go back and watch it. This is about fashion.
Yep. And
John Hughes is very, very much about fashion. Watch what the camera does. First, they're getting off the bus, and you see the whole kid, all the way they're dressed and all the different styles they're wearing. Then the camera focuses on the shoes and shows you different types of shoes. Mm-hmm. Then it focuses on the jeans or the whatever they're wearing for pants. Then it focuses on shirts and blouses and things. Then it focuses on accessories and watches. Then it focuses on makeup and eyelashes and jewelry. And then that in 16 Candles, that happens as a collective to all of these kids going to school. Then when we get to the next movie in the trilogy, Breakfast Club, it happens to a small group of people who are thrown together representing each clique.
Yep.
But they're presented one at a time as they get brought to school. And not only do we have the fashion of what they're wearing getting out of the car, we also see the status of the car that they're driving. And the very first image we see there is what?
It's a BMW.
W.
Yep.
And so that there we know that the Molly Ringwald character is affluent.
Yep.
We didn't need to say it. We just saw it because that's the best thing you can do in writing for a movie or TV is show, don't tell.
Yep.
So then we're introduced to each one of them, and notice the criminal doesn't have a car.
Right.
Or a parent to take him to school.
Yep.
And notice that when Allison, the Ali Sheedy character, is dropped off, all the other characters whose parents dropped them off talked to their kid before they left the car, or they said something to them to say bye or something as they were walking away from the car. Allison's parent starts to drive away before she gets completely out of the car.
Right. We've seen that before. Yeah.
Almost hits the criminal as they're driving in as he's walking to school.
Yeah. I mean, it's some of those little things that Hughes did.
Yeah. Then, okay, so we go from all the kids walking to school and focusing on the fashions, the different fashions of different kids, to a small group of kids thrown together from different cliques, to now we see a trend. We go to Pretty in Pink and we focus on one girl and her fashion. So we've gotten smaller over these films, but it's the same sequence as 16 Candles. We see shoes, then we see, we see her putting on the stocking. We see the feet, the stockings. We see what she's wearing as far as the dress goes. We see accessories. We see hair. I forgot hair. Hair is also in there's all these girls brushing their hair in 16 Candles. She's doing her hair. Then we see her with the makeup, with the lipstick, eyelashes, accessories, jewelry, same sequence.
Yeah.
Nothing happens by accident when you're writing a screenplay, I can tell you from experience.
No, it doesn't. And let's be honest, those were big themes in reality back then. Not that fashion isn't today, but it is not. And I will stand on this. It is not what it used to be when we were younger. We wanted the Air Jordans. You know, we wanted the Guess jeans, the Gerbeau jeans, name some other ones. Levi's weren't cool unless they were the button flies. If they weren't button flies, nobody wanted the Levi's because regular zipper. No. Ralph Lauren polo, Tommy Hilfiger. We had brands that were very, very important to every kid every day that they went to school. And it was important. And then with the women, it was the same thing, but also we were, the 80s were huge on accessories, right? I mean, you remember Swatch watches, and they had the rubber bands and
bracelets.
Oh my gosh, all of that stuff. Not saying that we don't have that today, but I'm talking prominent, important, everyday thought about items and things. Today, I know that there's people out there that still look for, they want to have brand name stuff, or that's just what their parents are buying them. But today, you talk to the kids about clothing and they look at you, they don't care. They just do not. It means nothing. I don't care what brand it is. You can get this as long as I like the color, it blows me away. But I do feel the tide is turning, or the pendulum is swinging back, Mike. And it's funny because just this school year alone, talking with my nephews, seeing what my nephews, there are brands, once again, I say retro stuff for us, there are brands that are actually coming back in popularity with the kids. So the kids are paying more attention nowadays. And I don't know what generation this is, if it's, Z or Alpha, whichever one it is, whatever one my nephews fit into. But I'm telling you, we're probably going to see a resurgence in, those types of things that made our lives, that defined our lives growing up. You're going to see that, I think, more and more today.
Yeah. So here's something I noticed when I was rewatching these movies that struck me profoundly, which was that you had characters that not only were sort of defined by their fashion, but their entire identity could be transformed by
Yeah.
changing their fashion. This I found absolutely fascinating in that we've got 16 candles, and what happens in that? We have a transformation where,
Yep.
and you talked about this earlier, where Caroline, the glamorous girl, starts off looking all affluent, but she undergoes a transformation to look normal, I guess, without all the fancy stuff, right? And so she gets humanized by destroying the myth of the affluent popular girl.
Yep.
But then we move to the Breakfast Club, and we have the outsider, Allison, who toward the end of the movie, she is given a makeover, and all of a sudden the boys are like, wow, they didn't even notice her until she underwent the makeover. And so, again, this might be something that would not, today it would be viewed as, well, you have to conform for people to appreciate you or love you. But
Yeah.
this is also, what I say is that John Hughes speaks the truth in how people actually act. And that when you do change your appearance, it does change how people think about you. I'm
Yeah.
not saying it's right. I'm saying he's writing truth. And
Well,
then we have Pretty in Pink, where now we have the working class girl who at the beginning of the movie, her dad said, "Where'd you get that outfit?" And she said, "I made it myself, and I made some of it myself. I bought the dress from secondhand." To at the end, she undergoes a transformation, and not only did she get the guy, but everybody started looking at her differently, to the chagrin of Ducky.
yeah. Well, and so this kind of goes back to the point that I was making earlier, Mike, about it seems like the majority of these characters, at least the main characters, get to experience two sides of the coin in just about every one of his at least these movies that we're talking about more prominently here.
Mm-hmm.
And I love that about, that's one thing I love about the Breakfast Club. And I don't know if this is just something that, that we should conclude this show on, but I'll just try to talk about it right here is it was genius. It really is genius. The entire movie takes place in this library. I mean, we're talking an hour and 15 minute, hour and 20-minute movie. I don't know how long it is.
It's a bottle episode in TV terms.
Yeah. And it's just in one scene, but yet we go through so many emotions. We go through bad times, good times, fun times, uncomfortable times. We go through all of these different emotions throughout this movie. And it's, I guess in the beginning of it, every one of these kids are by design against each other because of their social status, their economic status. They're just against each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then they start to kind of get to know each other. And they butt heads a lot of times. They argue a little bit like, oh, so we're going to go ahead and just play out the stereotypes that we are. Well, I'm the rich girl, so I'm going to look down on you. Or I'm the jock, so I'm going to look at you guys as all weak and whatever. And then they would fight and they would do this and that. And then they would realize, like, what are we doing here? And I think one thing that united them, and this is where I think is brilliant, was the principal, right? So the principal, to me, was the antagonist of the film.
Oh, for
Correct
sure.
me if I'm
Yeah.
wrong. He was the
No,
one that united all of them because he came in and he was like, boom, 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 boom. He actually kind of stereotyped each one of them as well, right? He was mean to the criminal guy. He was, he wasn't mean or ugly, but he was very much to the nerd. He was like, I know you're only here for blah, 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 right? He wasn't hard on him, and the athlete, he was fine on him because you just got to pay your dues. We're going to make sure you get to play in that game on Thursday or whatever. It's so you could kind of feel that from the principal, but then they started to kind of unite in their cause, in my opinion. And the principal, I think, started to kind of get that. And they all started realizing, man, this guy really actually is a jerk. He's treating each one of us differently, blah, blah, blah. He's just a jerk and whatever. So now we're going to unite against him. And they all come together in like this one rebellious state. But they forget, it's just so cool how they just transition immediately, like forget about their stereotypes and they warm up to each other. And I'll tie that into, as you said, the makeup piece, when it came to Ali Sheedy's character. She had that moment with the affluent character, with Molly Ringwald's character. And Molly Ringwald actually was like, you actually are probably really pretty. So why don't you try to be pretty? And she put makeup on her and she looked amazing. Right. I mean, Ali Sheedy became like super hottie. Right. And then all of a sudden the jock noticed her. Yeah. Like, holy cow, this girl's, like, wow. So he totally threw aside the stereotype. So anyways, I know I'm kind of, the synopsis here of the movie. And I know we kind of didn't want to talk about that, but I think it's important to call this out because there's some broad themes here that you can really tease through when you start to really analyze the movie and think about like, wow, it is amazing how one thing can unite a bunch of people that are not united. Right. And especially if it's a good cause or a righteous cause. And also these people can also put aside, they can actually learn, they can evolve in that moment. They can evolve to be better human beings, and better human beings is I might come from wealth, but that doesn't mean I should look down on people.
Yeah.
And just one example, or I'm the athlete.
Even though when asked about it, if she would be their friend when she saw them in the hall the next day, she said, honestly,
yeah. But she was being,
you have to fit in.
Yeah, right. It's unbelievable kind of how these things work, but they still ended up, I think we don't know. It's almost like a Christopher Nolan ending, right? We don't know what happened. We don't know what happens. There's the twist was at the end. They left as friends. Let's call it that. They left as friends. You can't deny that. They left on good terms. They left saying like, hey, this was really cool. Thank you.
Yeah, well, at the very first thing in the movie was the narration where he said, we have the criminal, we have the jock, we have the outsider, we have the beauty pageant queen. At least that's what I thought at 7:00 this morning. I'm not getting it perfect. And then he says, we were brainwashed.
Yeah.
Because that's what society does to us.
Yeah.
I love that. And my favorite scene in the movie in Breakfast Club is when the criminal sacrifices himself by creating a distraction so the other kids don't get in trouble.
Yeah. It was awesome. I mean, but I can't, it's awesome. It's such a good movie. It is such a good movie. And I think we can all relate to it. We definitely can relate to it. I don't know about, most kids today. Maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. I don't know. I think
I'm sure there's a reaction video out there somewhere where we can watch it.
You're probably right.
Or we could see them in real time react to every scene. I don't understand that, but that's a whole other thing. Okay. So now let me go back to the 16 Candles intro montage because I mentioned earlier we're going to talk about fashion and music because those are both two big parts of culture of the 80s. Yes. And so it's fascinating. Go back and watch that montage where there are all these different kids from all these different cliques and backgrounds wearing all these different clothes. But when they all sit down, the song changes and it becomes like an 80s up-tempo song. And they all start tapping their feet together in rhythm.
Yep.
Because music unites everybody.
Yep. Yeah. It was a brilliant theme. Yeah.
And so when we look at these amazing soundtracks, not as much so 16 Candles, but we're going to throw it in there. 16 Candles.
No, but there are pivotal bands that were at the time super popular that they used some of their songs on there. Kajagoogoo is one where if anybody's a fan of any,
I love Kajagoogoo.
Give me some
Lamal. Oh my God.
That's just if anybody's a fan of any throwback fantasy like the Labyrinth or the Never Ending Story, Lamal came from that group, and the Never Ending Story, which is a killer. It's a killer. It's a killer song, man. But Kajagoogoo themselves was shy. Too shy.
Too shy to shy. So we have Stray Cats, and I remember hearing 16 Candles on the radio.
Yes, of course. Yep.
And Gloria, that was a huge song, but that wasn't made popular by the movie. But this one was new, Thompson Twins, for this movie. If you were here, we're going to talk about that a little bit more later. But we have some songs that didn't make it on the EP because they didn't release a full album. AC/DC, that's at the beginning. It's playing on the radio, I think, when she goes into her room, if I recall. I remember the Paul Young song. I love Paul Young. Yeah, True, Spandau Ballet.
Spandau Ballet. I mean, everybody should know that song. Yeah.
And I've got story about Spandau Ballet that would be for if we ever do a show where I talk about all my rock and roll stories. I got something on Spandau. That's a hilarious thing. Yeah. Okay, and then we go to the Breakfast Club soundtrack. Yes. Oh my God.
Yeah.
So everybody knows at least one song off of this.
You absolutely should. And if you don't, as a matter of fact, I think a lot of people would probably recognize it. Oh, that's the Breakfast Club song. You know, and they might think that the Breakfast Club is the band that wrote the song.
It's not a band called Breakfast Club.
I know.
And
that's what I'm saying.
Good. And they were Madonna's band, by the way.
Yeah, and they were great. Breakfast Club was great, a great band. Yeah, they had some popular songs, but that's not who wrote the song, the main theme song to the Breakfast Club. And yeah, Don't You Forget About Me, iconic song. It's up there with Aha. Aha and Take on Me. Yeah. But my favorite, because I love, and I know the drums were electronic to an extent. They did have some electronic, I loved the drums, and which is one of the inspiring, songs behind why I like playing drums and wanted to play the drums, besides my father's influence.
Interesting. I didn't know that.
Oh my gosh. I love that. I love the drums. Listen to the drum track on that whole song. Listen to it. Well, the bridge piece, the bridge to that song, that drum beat, I'm going to put it up there with Yes, Owner of a Lonely Heart. I know you know what I'm talking about in that bridge. I know it leads into the bridge, or it leads out of the bridge. I can't remember, but it's that drum that is flippin' iconic. I love it. And the same thing with that Breakfast Club song. So listen to the song. You'll know what I'm talking about.
Well, interestingly about this song is nobody wanted to record it. Everybody hated this song when it was presented in demo form, at least. So we have these guys, Keith Forsey and Steve Schiff, who I think Steve Schiff's related, maybe the dad of the bass player for Chicago, but that's another story. But so these guys wrote this song, and according to Casey Kasem from an American Top 40 episode, this was written, they had David Bowie in mind. Now, I cannot verify that from anywhere else on the internet. Yeah. I believe Casey Kasem, because he would have known everybody in the music industry, and probably these songwriters told him that themselves. So at a party or something. So Casey Kasem said they offered it to David Bowie, which is why they had the hey stuff, which would be a very Bowie thing. Yep. And so he turned it down, according to Kasem. And then they offered it to Simple Minds. The rest of this is easy to document. They offered it to Simple Minds, who said, no, we write our own songs. Thank you very much, and have a nice day. I don't know if they added to have a nice day. But then they offered it to Brian Ferry. He's the Lady in Red, Lady in Red guy, who's got a lot of other great songs, by the way. But no, that wasn't him. Never mind. But he turned it down. Then they offered it to Billy Idol, and I could see Billy Idol doing this song.
I could, but it just doesn't fit.
He said, no, thank you very much, but no. And then they offered it to Simple Minds again. And like, shut up. Okay, fine. We'll record it. And it became their biggest hit.
It to this day, it's still a big hit. I can't imagine it's not. It's just such a great song, a catchy song. So
if you had to pick one song, if you ask somebody which song, if you can choose one, defines the 80s, this would be an easy contender.
It would absolutely be top two. And like I said, the other one would be Take on Me by Aha. I mean, it literally would. Nothing, I wouldn't say they pale in comparison to other songs, but those are probably the two most iconic 80s songs that I could think of. just out of the electrode
Yeah.
pops up. And look, we're talking Duran Duran, we're talking Depeche Mode, and we're talking bands, like
Yeah.
popular bands.
And I mean, you think of people who were more popular in simple minds, like Michael Jackson or Donna Summer, but I don't think of them and necessarily think 80s. I think that's just great music. But I hear the minute I hear that song open up with that drum beat, I think the 80s.
I know. Exactly. Hey, hey, hey. I love that, man. It's awesome. And then, like I said, that drum set, man, that drum riff and that at the bridge is amazing, man. It's cool.
By the way, I saw a concert where they played that at an Alan Parsons project. That's a whole other story.
Man, I'm sure you have a lot of those, Mike, hanging out with Alan and Alan Parsons. Yep.
Okay, let's move to Pretty in Pink.
Yes.
So Pretty in Pink had a officially released album and then a whole bunch of other songs that were in the movie, but not on the album.
But I gotta say, Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, OMD. That's what everybody calls it. That's what they go by. But it's Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark for people who don't know OMD. Yep. If You Leave, that is another staple song, in my opinion. That is an incredible song, absolutely incredible song. If you don't know that one, you should. You'll know it when you listen to it. Just do it. It's incredible. But the Psychedelic Furs, the Smiths, of course. I mean, good grief, Love My Way, Pretty in Pink.
Association. That's a great song.
Yeah. Yeah.
An old 60s song, I think.
It is. The Association's great. Windy, that's a great song.
Yeah. And they play, so sometimes they have the rights to play the song in the movie, but they don't obtain the rights to put it on an album.
On the album.
Because those are those are separately contracted. And if you ever wonder, like if you ever think, why do Mike and Anthony talk about music so much, but they never play any of the songs? Oh, I wish we could.
Yeah. We'd get in trouble. Well, not we'd get in trouble, but they'd probably take our video down, and we want everybody to watch our videos. So we try to observe the rules best we can.
YouTube, you can play for most things, you can play video clips without raising any red flags. But minute we put on, if we played the actual intro, just the drums, we'd get this video taken down. So
we'd get busted. But hey, you can go on YouTube and look the song up and listen to it on YouTube or Spotify or any whatever app of choice you want to use. That's doable. So
so OMD, if you don't know OMD, go listen to an OMD greatest hits and you'll be glad for it.
You will
thank us later.
Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark, they've got deep cuts on the album that are awesome.
Mm-hmm.
So
and so the hit from this almost didn't exist. It's fascinating to me. I love this stuff. So they wrote a song originally for the ending of the movie called The Goddess of Love or Goddess of Love.
Yep.
And so that was going to fit the original ending that Hughes wrote, which was basically the Molly Ringwald character, Andy, ended up with Ducky.
Yeah.
But then he decided at the last minute that she wasn't going to end up with Ducky. She was going to ditch him for the other guy, the more affluent or the more popular guy.
Yep.
And so John Hughes basically called Orchestral Maneuvers in the Dark and said, okay, I need another song and I need it today.
Yeah.
And it has to be 120 beats per minute because we've been using to film the dance scene. We've been using Don't You Forget About Me from the previous movie, and it's 120 beats per minute. So whatever song you write has to be exactly 120 beats per minute. And according to the guy from OMD, he wrote the song in the car on the way over to the studio.
Which I don't know if I want to hear that or not, but because it does fascinate me. If You Leave is an awesome song. Once again, go listen to it. OMD, that song is so cool. Just the beginning of that song, you just get like all just hyped up. Just
to me, that just what a genius the guy who wrote it in OMD is, or maybe it's more than one, I don't remember, to be able to just pull that out of the top of their head on the way over to the studio.
Yeah.
So it's my favorite song by them. So I love it.
Yep.
And then, so then we have Weird Science, and
which is fun.
written by Danny Elfman, who we know from talking about, Batman.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah,
And
Tim Burton, man, he's Danny
yeah,
Elfman's Tim Burton's. Yep, it's his
most of
go-to
those Tim
guy.
Burton movies, if not all of them. And so he wrote it. Oingo Boingo played it, but Elfman ended up hating it, basically.
Yeah.
So that happens
But
sometimes. I never quite understand that, but
yeah, but it is an interesting song, and Oingo Boingo is an interesting band. I mean, just the name itself says, "Hey, we're an interesting band." But I think that song was cool. It's an iconic song. I mean, it's Weird Science, man.
Oingo Boingo is one of those bands that they kind of would be out of left field sometimes, like Art of Noise, kind of.
Yes,
You know,
exactly.
Okay, so we've talked about all this. So basically, to sum up some of this stuff, um, we're going to first talk about some of the things that we've kind of touched on, that, we're not overlooking the fact that if these movies were made today, some things would
Right.
be considered not acceptable by our
Yeah.
current mores. Long Duck Dong would, I guarantee you, not be a name of a character in the movie.
No.
Caroline would not be passed around by different guys when she's drunk.
Right.
Now, as far as I can tell, they were both drunk and the sex was consensual, but still, they just wouldn't have gone there.
Yeah,
and then Weird Science, they wouldn't have that movie wouldn't be made today because it would be considered the male gaze and objectifying women and all that. And so, and then Allison's Makeover probably wouldn't happen just because it would be like, we're not going to love you unless you conform to the standards of beauty that we say are beautiful. So we acknowledge that there are some things people would find problematic today, but on the other hand,
but in the time, right? I mean, the times that we were living in, and I'm not speaking to everything, obviously, but in the times that we were living in, those things, they were reality in certain instances. Not every one of those things that we talked about, but a lot of those, things were just realities back then. And it was just accepted, like we say, socially accepted, and they had to be played out. They had to be known. They had to be brought to the forefront. Maybe that was something that John Hughes was doing as well. He was doing that for a reason or purpose. I would say probably, because sometimes you want to call those things out. I would say if you know somebody's got ill intentions, I would want that to be brought to the forefront so everybody knows that this person has ill intentions. This way, everybody can be well informed to stay away from that person. So maybe that was part of his, maybe that was a part of his plan. Other things might have just been teasing out a boyhood fantasy, right? They just were in Weird Science.
Oh, for sure. That was a male escape fantasy.
Once
no
again,
doubt about it.
It's exactly what it was. But it also had a good message in it too, right? I mean, the whole popularity. Yeah, the whole popularity thing, and like you don't need this to be popular, because at the end, the two nerds still got the cute, fun girls, at the very end. They found their love, and it was really cool. And those girls, they just accepted them for who they were, right? They just did. It almost is like they met their equivalent in the females, in the female species there in that movie. Although I would I would wager that those women were pretty hot. I like the blonde. I can't remember what her name was, but she was my favorite.
Well,
so
as Jay would say, all the girls were top shelf, and
they were top shelf.
The guys were pussies, except for Judd Nelson.
Judd Nelson's character. Yep.
Is that who it was? I think.
Yeah, that was. I think it was Judd Nelson.
Yeah. So now here's our summary. I think it's fairly obvious to me by John Hughes' own words that there was a Shermerverse that told very specific stories about America being the story of post-war America being the small town Shermer, and what it's like to have the environment affect you in different ways depending on the socioeconomic theories that have been put in place by society. And then talked about how things have changed from the 80s to today. And we spent the last little bit just doing some nostalgia with fashion and music.
Yeah, and a lot of it, a lot of fun stuff on looking into this show, Mike. So I'm glad we got to sit and chat about it. I still think it's always fun to be able to tie in a lot of nostalgia. And this definitely was a lot of nostalgia for me, not only when we started talking about clothing and stuff, because once again, I'm trying to relive some of those, clothing brands and whatnot that I couldn't afford when I was younger, or I say family couldn't afford when I was younger, or I loved them so much when I was younger. I want more today. And then of course the music itself, it's always fun to go down it. Once again, I know we've had this conversation before and past episodes, plural, but there's just something about listening to music that can it can stimulate a neuron that is still there from decades ago. And movies like this and the soundtracks that they have and the music that will automatically trigger you. I bet you anything, just hearing Don't You Forget About Me. If you've seen The Breakfast Club, your mind will automatically at least think about The Breakfast Club at some point in time during that song. But you'll also think about other things that happened when you maybe first heard that song, or when you just couldn't stop listening to that song back when you were younger. So a lot of fun. And it was just neat. It was just neat learning about, John Hughes, much more in the Shermerverse, obviously, that we did not talk about.
Yeah. Well, I think, I don't know about you, but it might be fun in the future. If you folks enjoyed this episode, I think it might be fun to do a movie more specifically looking at Weird Science, Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Yeah.
And what would be a natural third to put in there with that? Is there one that you can think of off the top of your head?
No, because my mind was going to, I can't wait till the Christmas, because definitely
we can do Home Alone. We should do a Christmas Hughes Christmas special with Vacation
in December. Yep.
And Home Alone.
Yeah.
And knowing Hughes, there's probably some other
planes, trains, and automobiles.
Yeah. So what we might do a couple more of these. We don't usually do the same topic right close to shows right next to each other, so we space them out.
Well,
even though we haven't done a sequel yet, but
and we're just getting started, right? We're a couple months into this, and we've been having fun with it. I think we've kind of found some general paths that we like to go down to take us down the roads, I guess, of our conversations, and these have been some fun ones. So, this was definitely a good one, and we absolutely have to. I mean, you can't not. There's so much more. And it's the same thing with Tim Burton. Right. I mean, we just, there's just so much more. So we have to, we're going to have other shows and other episodes, but we're going to talk about what, we'll have very different, unique conversations about those too. I mean, come on, Christmas Vacation. Hello.
My favorite Christmas movie of all time. I'm just saying.
It's one of mine.
What's that shirt? Is that Captain America?
That is the shield of Captain America. Okay. Yes.
I thought it was probably. Nice.
Yeah. Speaking of, I did watch just for the fun of it. I went back and watched Infinity War and Endgame again, back to back, which was a lot of fun to watch. And apparently they are going to re-release Endgame with a slightly varied title in the theaters coming up. I cannot remember a date, but it is coming up, and they're supposed to have a little bit more footage in there that's supposed to tie in.
There are going to be new scenes. Yeah.
It's going to tie in some Doomsday stuff. So I might have to go see it again, which, obviously is part of the gimmick, but hey, yeah.
No, I'm in. Gimmick away for me. Yeah. You sold me. You had me at new scenes and extra footage.
Right. Yeah. And how they're going to, because it's been a while since Endgame, it's how they tie that into Doomsday. So, but Mike, before we go, do we have a sponsor tonight?
We do. Yeah. We picked up a new sponsor. I'm very, very proud to represent the Prancing Pony.
Okay.
Establishment. If you're going through Bree, I very highly recommend you stop at the Prancing Pony. They do serve excellent grog. And it does come in pints.
I've always wanted to go there, and they have pints. They do. That's amazing.
Yeah,
they have pints.
I recommend it. Next time you're in Bree.
Thank you.
Next time head out to the Mirkwood Forest.
Hey, in the third age. Yeah.
Yes. Third age of men. Yeah.
Yep.
So, this has been fun.
Yes, sir. It has.
So say we all.
Live long and prosper.
It is
Mike, thanks again, man. Appreciate it. Great show. Look forward to next week. Thanks, everybody.